Welcome back, everybody. We are at the Pro-Aging Podcast, Season 3, Episode 5. And today we have a good friend, the cosmetic dentist of cosmetic dentists, Dr. Marc Lowenberg. Now, we go back a long way. He is a native New Yorker. We also shared a publicist, his daughter, for many years, Tara. We almost died together during the early days of COVID. So we've gotten closer and closer over the years, in addition to sharing in numerous patients. In fact, I was recently sprawled out on his couch, not as a patient and him a therapist, but after years and years of him telling me how much my old veneers looked like shit, I finally cracked mine in Sag Harbor one day. And he was so nice to fix it. I went in, we're going to talk about our journey and his expertise. You know, I sat in his office for the first time and got to experience the experience of going through cosmetic dentistry. And I saw so many books of famous celebrities and people of importance. And I said to myself, why isn't the pro-aging playbook there? So we're going to find out why this guy has so many of his books, why he's so famous, and really get a good history of what cosmetic dentistry is about and really his unique perspective and expertise. So let me say thank you for being the man behind this smile, Marc. Thanks for coming on board finally.
Thank you.
I think the most important question first is people don't really understand what cosmetic dentistry is. What are veneers? I want you to give a little background before we go into the innuendo and tell me a little bit about how it's evolved, because not to age us, but you've been doing this a while, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All time.
Tell me best.
But, it's interesting because everyone tosses the term cosmetic dentistry around left and right. And I don't think anyone really knows what the definition
Exactly.
is. But really what cosmetic dentistry is anything that makes your smile look better. So it could be porcelain veneers. It could also be caps or crowns if that's what you need.
Yeah.
It could also mean taking out all the old silver fillings from decades ago and replacing them with porcelain fillings.
Am I a cosmetic dentist if I revolumize around the mouth? No, not really.
You don't want to be a cosmetic dentist. You're doing just fine the way you are.
Thank you.
But the way this whole thing evolved, and you probably would be bored with the story, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway. Back in the 70s, Merv Griffin was a guy who had a TV show.
Famous Merv Griffin.
You know who he is?
Of course I do. I grew up on his television shows.
He was very into looking better. I don't know who his dermatologist was or his dentist, but he discovered that there was a company out in LA that had come up with this way of gluing or bonding material to your teeth. And it had never been heard of.
I never heard
So
of
his executive producer, who I knew, got this material from the company in LA. It had not been board certified yet.
Yeah.
He got the material and he flew to New York with the material and he asked me to put it on his teeth.
You're kidding me.
No, this is
what we think of as bonding today?
Yeah. It was the forerunner of what we think of as bonding today.
Yeah.
It was the same concept. You would etch the enamel on the teeth.
Yeah.
And then you would bond or glue something on top of it.
And this is a precursor to what we hear of veneers.
Totally,
right?
because in those days, honestly, I mean, what he brought to New York, literally, they were plastic. They literally looked like fake fingernails. And he insisted that I put them on his teeth, and they were hideous looking.
Did George Washington really have wooden teeth? What's this whole deal with wooden teeth, by the way?
Yeah.
Did people really have wooden teeth back in the day?
Yes, they did, but I've never been able to figure it out.
Like a functional denture of sort?
And they implant them into their mouth.
Come on, you should know this. I mean, you're good about the dental history.
I don't do wood. I only do porcelain.
So when did the porcelain stuff come out?
Oh, so first there were these plastic veneers.
Yeah.
And then I would say maybe 5 to 10 years later, a company learned how to do the same process, but with porcelain. So it really started in the 80s.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I have to say, most dentists thought it was quackery. Like nobody wanted to do it, nobody wanted to touch it, because this is not something you learned in dental school. Yeah. This was something you actually learned from reading a pamphlet. There was no courses to teach you how to do it. You were really learning on the job. But because of this guy, the executive producer, because of him, I was forced by him to learn how to do the whole
So you were an
process.
early adopter, we call it.
Yeah, I was.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely. And I can also tell you, and I love this part of the story, that in those days, I would say most dentists that I knew talked very badly about me because they
still do.
They thought this concept of adhering porcelain to your teeth was not good dentistry.
They said this about Botox in the early days, that it's perversing the field of growing aesthetic dermatology, that you're injecting poison into the face, and it's something that should never be done, never be adopted, and it's only for rare medical uses and things like that. This is true, I think, of all early adopters and mavericks of their field. It really is. And so you would say...
People don't like change, and especially, I don't know about dermatologists, but dentists who go to school, they do everything by the book. Right. They're not, by and large, they're not very adventurous, or they don't move away from the tried and true dentistry. Yeah. But this was something new.
And I'm assuming now in dentistry, similar to dermatology, is that everybody wants to be a cosmetic dentist. Everybody wants to be a cosmetic dentist.
Everybody claims they are.
Right. And these are people without labs who do a couple of cases a month and things like that. I mean, it appears from being a patient that this isn't something you dabble in. This is something you are all in on, and having the expertise of a co-opted team. But to talk about the role of the ceramist, right?
Right. Well, the truth is that the ceramists, who are the people that actually make the veneers, they don't get enough credit.
Yeah.
People give all the credit to the practitioner. Oh, you're great. Your veneers are beautiful. But it's actually the ceramists that are making them. And in our office, there are two types of veneers, by the way. There's veneers that are made out of feldspathic porcelain. And the way that's done, it's an ancient technique where you literally layer porcelain one layer at a time until you create a facade that mimics a natural tooth structure. That is an art, a real art.
Yeah.
And the other way of doing veneers are called pressable veneers, which is where you take an ingot of porcelain and you mold it into the veneer. So the pressable veneers, because they're not done by hand, so to speak, are not as lifelike as ones done by a ceramist who does feldspathic porcelain.
So tell me, what would be different about the type of veneers? By the way, how do I look, guys? He's doing my bottoms in a month, because we'll talk about that too, about people going thinking they just want the top, and then a month later they come back and want the bottoms. But, I originally had veneers 30 years ago, done by an associate of my father, who was a dentist. And, they were functional. They did very well for a while. What is different in like the last 20, 30 years of the modern veneer?
Well, first of all, to be clear, you thought your veneers looked great.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't. But you thought they looked great. You didn't know any.
They were better than what I had before.
But you didn't know any different.
I didn't know any different. That's right.
So when you say what is different, nothing is really different.
In terms of the quality of the veneer?
In terms of the actual technique.
Right.
That is not different.
Really?
Well,
The technology hasn't changed?
Okay. So it's changed in the fact that now you could use a camera to scan a tooth and have a printer make a veneer. But those veneers are not, in my opinion, artistic.
Yeah.
I think on TikTok, they have all these I don't know what they even call, but they have all these people that claim they went to Brazil to get veneers, or they went to some random office in the middle of Oklahoma. Those are veneers that are printed or pressed, and they have no characters in them. Yeah. They literally look like George Washington's wood teeth, but they're white.
Yeah.
But when I say nothing has changed, the technique of doing it by hand has not changed.
The artistry has evolved.
So it's really how good you are as an artist that you could recreate what a tooth should look like.
So do you think 30 years ago, you could have done as good of a job on my uppers as I did now? It's the same work.
I absolutely do. As a matter of fact, my favorite thing, and my two partners hate that I do this, but my favorite thing is when patients come back with veneers that are 30 years, 35 years old. And they're still amazing looking.
These look good.
So yes, when they're done well, they still look good.
Now, tell me, I see these things you mentioned, TikTok and social media. People have a lot of fears. This whole, they shaved, Because I know you are removing some of the enamel, you are kind of shaving down the teeth a little bit, but you're seeing these pictures where it's almost like weird, like down to the butt almost. You know what I'm talking
I know
about?
exactly what you're talking about.
Tell me about this. But why do why do some people like bring the tooth down so much?
Well, because there are two aspects. It's the ceramist and the dentist, the practitioner. So if you over drill the teeth, we call it over preparing the teeth.
Yeah.
If you over prepare the teeth, you're taking away a lot more tooth structure that you need to. The word veneer, and you know this from this beautiful office, you know, the word veneer is just a thin covering that goes on top of something else and changes the total appearance of it. So a veneer is not supposed to be like a cap or a cram where you drill away so much tooth structure. That's the beauty of veneers. They're very conservative. And, you know, to that point, you know, I veneered my son's teeth when he was 17 years old.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. And I never would have done that. I mean, I like him. I never would have done that if I thought it was harmful to do to a 17-year-old. But you're taking away so little tooth structure that it does not harm the teeth.
So the porcelains, the products that come out now, they're not any more or less durable either. Again, has to do with the ceramist, right? In terms of breakage and things like that.
So the pressable veneers are harder than the feldspathic veneers.
Okay.
But they've been around for decades. So there's nothing new. There's all different materials, but the most artistic material is feldspathic porcelain.
Yeah. It's interesting.
And that's what you got.
It's interesting because it's not so different. There are a lot of parallels between cosmetic dermatology and plastic surgery and cosmetic dentistry. You know, there's so many new technologies that come out what I do, but the old tried and like things, they've changed, but they haven't changed. You know what I'm saying? And I still do laser resurfacing to method microliposuction, and in many ways my injectables with whatever tools I had back then the same way. Again, it's about the artistry. People have this fear not only of the over-prepared teeth, but of, you know, they call them the chiclet teeth.
Right.
Right? And again, this is just bad. I mean, is it a color thing? Is it a shape thing?
You know, the chiclet look that everyone complains about, it's either the practitioner did not do a good job, or the laboratory that makes them did not do a good job. But I have to tell you, and this may be true in your business as well, there are people that actually say to me, I'm spending a lot of money on this. I don't care if they look fake. I want them Hollywood white. And you know, you have to give them what they want. And I always say to them, please don't tell anyone I did your teeth.
Yeah, I go just the opposite. I mean, I tell people if someone wants lips beyond the extreme that I think is aesthetically pleasing, or cheekbones, you know, every patient I call is a muse. They're an advertisement for you.
Yeah, of course.
And, you know, if their features are walking in the room first, it doesn't make you look good.
No.
And my concern is that their dysmorphic perception is only going to lead. See, you see a patient once, or there is some maintenance involved, but I'm seeing patients regularly back, and it can become a slippery slope. But why anyone would want that is like a false perception, right? And my line is, just because some people have a bad sense of fashion doesn't mean the rest of us shouldn't wear clothing.
Yes, that's a good one. I think I'll steal that.
You'll steal that, right?
But unfortunately, you are judged by your patients, and it is a slippery slope because you want to make your patients happy.
Yep.
I mean, in my case, they're paying a lot of money for this, and you know, if they don't think their teeth are white enough or glamorous enough, you know, then I do them over.
Does the porcelain age? Does it lose its color, luster, or reflection?
Yeah, actually, you know, that's an interesting question because people don't realize this. So first of all, people ask how long should they last? And the answer to that question is they should last anywhere between 15 and 20 years. Well, what do I mean by that? They don't just explode at the end of 20 years. What happens is somewhere between 15 and 20 years, they stop looking gorgeous and they start looking old. And you need a refresher. You have to redo them. But the reason for that is not because veneer has aged. What actually happens is, you know, good veneers, not the chiclet look, but good veneers are not opaque. They have some degree of translucency to them. So as we age, our teeth get darker.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, if you look at people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, they all have brown teeth. Wow. If they haven't had work done.
Yeah.
I just did a case on a man who's 93 years old. Did I tell you this?
No.
but he's great. He's in great shape and everything else. But his teeth had gotten so dark with age, and he really had nice teeth, but they were so dark, and he looked great. I thought he was your patient. He looked so good, but he definitely wanted them whiter.
Yeah.
Now there's a perfect example. So he's 93. He wanted them whiter. Do you really
Want to make this such a contrast?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is he's 93, but you have to give the patient what they want. They're paying for.
Yeah, this is a thing I see so much because I believe that there are a lot of people who get veneers in their peak of their beauty or around that peak. They can do it, get them in their mid-30s, late 30s, they have some money in their pocket, they want to look good, they get them done. And then they don't really take care of the quality of their skin and other things. Their hair may gray, their skin may get spotted, their lips shrink by 50% by age 50, their mouth turns down. And then those really perfect white teeth, which are holding up pretty well at age 50, look like terrible chiclet teeth. Not because they were not done beautifully at age 35. It's just it doesn't fit the 50-year-old's face, which is why so many of my patients, I'm really looking at their teeth to try and to synchronize their mouth. And listen, if their mouth looks like crap and they're taking care of their skin and everything, that's what, of course, I'm sending on to you.
But the opposite of what you're saying is also true. So think about it this way. Somebody has a facelift, has work done by a dermatologist, takes great care of their skin, their hair, but they don't do their teeth. So a 60-year-old woman looks 50, but her teeth look 70.
Absolutely.
And so it works both ways.
That's why we have longevity working together, right? Give me 5.
Exactly. But so the truth is, what I don't think the general population realizes, that you have to treat the face as a whole.
You do.
You can't break it down into different.
And it does change, and it's okay. Everybody is concerned about how long do things last, but the fact of the matter is, you don't want things to last forever because things change. Like if you have to change them in 10 or 15 years, you shouldn't be upset. Oh, maintenance. People say that with everything. A facelift only lasts 10 years. Breast implants have to be changed. Yeah. There's nothing. You have to look at things as a long game because you got to change. Now, the structure of their mouth changes as they get older. You see this, they lose bone density. Right. Their philtrum drops. You don't see the teeth as much. If you're redoing veneers on someone who's had them for 20 years at age 60, there are things structurally you could do to bring out things. You did something to me where you created more width in my teeth. Tell me about the more architecture of the mouth.
So first of all, my general statement always to everybody is, when you're young, you can get away with a lot of things. As you get older, you can't get away with it. One of the things that happens as people age is the arch, which is your maxilla, your upper jawbone, narrows. It gets narrower. So your teeth on the side tend to move in a bit. Yeah. So if you had a broader smile when you were 18 and now you're 45, 50, yeah, it has shrunken in. So by putting veneers on your teeth, you could actually, without moving the teeth, you could actually make your smile look broader. So in your case, if you don't mind me talking about
please, absolutely.
What I used to tell you all the time, what I would see all the time is you had 6 veneers, just your 6 front teeth. Yeah. And then your side teeth disappeared. Yeah. So when you smiled, all you saw were those 6 front teeth.
It's true. No, I only see it now.
But it's common. I mean, that's a very common thing. Yeah. I would say I would guess maybe 75% of the cases I do, you widen the smile. Yeah. Because widening the smile definitely makes you look younger.
Yeah. And it's funny, I'm sure younger dentists today, there's so much technology and photography and all these things. This is just something your pure eye as an expert in what you do just picks up.
Yeah, but it's, that's the whole game in any beauty profession.
It's an eye.
You have to have that eye.
Yeah, you can't teach that.
You can't be successful if you don't have that eye. And you're right, you cannot teach it. Yeah. So, I'm sure you do the same thing. You probably look at me and figure out all the things you want to do to my skin. But it's like when I meet someone, in 10 seconds, I can analyze their smile and say what would make them look better.
So when you get interviewed for whatever media thing you're doing and you said you look at everybody's smile, you're not polite and say, oh, well, no, I'm focusing on the person inside. You say, oh, yeah, I notice immediately what's up.
Yeah, I do. I'm very honest to a fault.
Yes, you are.
But the reality is you're a perfect example. Yeah. You didn't really, I talked to you about this for years. you didn't really understand it until I showed it to you in your mouth.
And I cracked my tooth. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So tell me about, the fear that people have going into it, right? Again, everyone's always minimalist. Like, I want to get away with doing the least instead of the complete work. And even myself, I was like, let's just do the tops. No one sees my bottoms. Yeah. Is this
You were impossible at it. You thought it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But once you do your tops.
Yeah, now I got it. I'm not even going to show you my bottoms. It's really not pretty.
So, and speaking of that, then the other problem is that people do not realize that when you smile, you see your top teeth. Yeah. But when you're talking, you see your bottom teeth. You're looking at my bottom teeth.
Yeah, and as you get older, you see the bottoms more and more because your philtrum's dropping. You don't see the uppers as much.
It's actually also because your lower lip, gravity is pulling your lower lip down. So it's very aging, having your lower teeth show and not your upper teeth. One of the great things about veneers is you can elongate upper teeth. Yeah. And make their smile become more visible. Yeah. Actually, I'm a perfect example of that. I have veneers, and you didn't see my teeth when I smiled. You never saw my teeth.
Yeah.
And then Greg and Brian, my two partners, I made them work together, so neither one of them would get the credit for doing my veneers. Right. So it was very funny. But I told them you have to elongate my teeth. So the lab made them maybe like 3 millimeters long.
That longer. That sounds like a lot.
It was a lot. I'm telling you that. So they tried them in, and they showed me the mirror, and I said, "Are you kidding me? I look like
Kara's saying that.
Lunch stars." They were ridiculous looking.
Yeah.
So yes, I made them do it.
So you did them over. We're going to talk about your partners in a second. I just wanted to ask you what about gender differences? Would people going in wanting less, more? There's certain consistencies you see men different than women. Are your patients, is it 50-50?
I would say 60-40.
Women to men.
Yeah.
And do you notice certain things? I mean, in my field,
up until, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 years ago, it was 90% women.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But then
I would think teeth would be a male thing, like hair is a male thing.
Yeah, but teeth are not a male thing. You're wrong. Actually, to be quite frank, most of the men that do their teeth only do them because their wives drive them crazy.
Really?
Yeah. It's not really motivated by the man. It's motivated by the woman.
It's like that in a lot of cosmetic things.
But the guys go along with whatever their wife wants, so they're willing to do it. But I have to tell you this, almost always, a guy, when he does his teeth, after they're done, he's so happy he did it. He didn't want to do it. He went kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
But after they're done, then they like it.
They probably break them more than women too. They probably need more maintenance too because they don't follow the rules and stuff like that.
No,
right?
actually, no, they're
pretty good.
Well, yeah, it's not like that at all. The breakage is not a lot, by the way.
It's not.
No.
I still have recurrent dreams that I'm cracking these and they're falling off and I'm so careful after that one incident.
But the breakage is not a lot. I mean, whether you're a male or a female, you have to use common sense. You can't.
What are some of the common sense things you have to do that you can't do when you were young, like biting into apples, carrots? What are some of the?
Well, I recommend break your nails. That's the biggest thing. Yeah. And there are a lot of people that bite their nails, so you absolutely cannot bite your nails.
Yeah.
Do you bite your nails?
I used to when I was younger. Now I got it well manicured.
Oh my God. But you also, I tell people you can eat red apples, which are softer than green apples. Granny Smith apples are so hard.
I could eat a regular apple.
Eat a red apple. Yeah. You cannot bite into a raw carrot. You could have julienne carrots, but you can't do a Bugs Bunny thing. No. Like, I don't know about you, but every time I eat a carrot, I want to do the Bugs Bunny thing. Yeah. You cannot do that because the leverage of the carrot will catapult the veneer across the room.
Yeah. Yeah. But other than that,
it's pretty durable.
They're very durable. I mean, a lot of it is common sense. Like, I don't know about you, but my mother used to yell at me as a kid if she saw me opening a bag with my teeth, like a plastic bag or a bottle.
My father yells at me constantly as a dentist. He yells at me. He used to yell at me as a kid constantly. Don't chew that candy. Don't do that.
So what I'm saying is it's common sense. you know you're not supposed to open things with your teeth.
Yeah.
I mean, your teeth are for eating. So if you have veneers and you open a bottle with your teeth.
Oh, no, I'm not. No, that's silly.
Yeah. Great.
So tell me a little bit about the partners. You were originally a solo practitioner for many years.
Yep.
And I assume you practiced general dentistry for many, many years, right?
But as I said, I started doing cosmetic dentistry.
So early.
It was literally, I'm not exaggerating, it was literally the year that I started.
And then Mark Griffin's story happened my first year at them.
Really?
Yeah.
And in your practice, you have your two partners. There's a lot of different types of dentistry going on too, right? You have the periodontist there and all this, like full care type of stuff is going on there.
Exactly.
And how did you meet your partners?
So,
Briefly.
Yeah, briefly, okay. So Greg Latucci, his mother worked in an office with a woman who was my patient. And my patient, asked me to meet Greg, to interview him. I had no interest in meeting him because in truth, in those days, I didn't even have room for somebody else. But she wore me down and I eventually met him and I liked him and he came to work for me. Brian Cantor's story is way better. Brian Cantor's story is when he was 16, he had a girlfriend whose mother was my girlfriend. So I've known Brian since he was 16 years old.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Has he been dreaming about working with you as well?
Yes.
And wait, it gets even better. And Brian's father was my classmate in dental school. So when I met Brian at 16, he knew that I went to dental school with his father. And he basically stalked me once he went to college and dental school. And he just kept calling me and asking me if he could come observe.
Unbelievable. I get the feeling a lot of the cosmetic dentists in Europe, like they all went to NYU back in the day, including my father. Like that was like the main.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Definitely NYU.
Yeah,
Definitely. I mean, Greg happened to go to Columbia, but one of the things I think you once asked me is, are we all the same, the three of us? So, I'm really very lucky because these two guys are not only my partners, but they're also my best friends.
clearly. I mean, in the Hamptons, these guys like the Three Musketeers. They're always together. Like, then you get tired of each other, and when you're in the chair with them, they're each coming in and out of the room, talking about patients, joking around. Oh, let me look in your mouth. It really is like
It's an amazing.
unique.
It's very.
And do you have the same style?
Yes, that's what I'm telling you. So what's interesting is you have to keep in mind, I was the first one out of the gate. So I basically taught Greg, then Brian came. So yes, the way we all do things is basically the way I did it from day one. So yes, it's the same style. And we all love natural looking teeth and not chiclets. So we all try to make the smiles, I like to say, perfectly imperfect.
You bring each other in on your case. I know I have an implant, and with modern things like implants and crowns and all these different things, it complicates your job to some degree. And you really like bounce, even as the elder statesman of the practice, you're bouncing things off each other, bringing people in the room.
100% is an absolute team. I mean, if you think about it, this sounds ridiculous, I know, but if you think about it, any patient that comes to us, they're not getting one person. They're actually getting four people because it's me, Brian, and Greg, and Jason Kim, the ceramist.
Yeah.
So everyone is involved in creating your smile, including the patient. We didn't talk about this, but this is very important. I know you didn't do this, but maybe you did actually a little bit. You did with your canoids. But it's very important that you talk to the patient and understand what their expectations are, what they want. So if I recall correctly, you had said you wanted your canines pointy.
Is that true?
It started out by accident. You showed me a mirror and you said, oh, we could bring these down. I think you may like this, bring it down. And I was like, I kind of think it's, for me, masculine looking and strong looking thing. And all of a sudden, again, you introduced something to me I didn't know I would like. You brought in a few people and be like, well, you may not like. Anyway, I talked myself into something that you first even brought up to me. And now I'm super happy with.
Right.
But it's an individual thing.
It is an individual thing. And that's why it's so important to listen to what your patient is saying.
but also direct. You were very, very, and I'm doing the same way with my patients. You listen, but you have to use your expertise to really push them in the direction you think is going to be best. And you guys all have very good balance with that.
Yeah. I mean, because people don't realize, first of all, I don't think people really see themselves accurately. I think people have an image in their head of how they want to look, and they aspire to that.
It's so much even worse now with all the selfie cameras, Instagram,
I mean, do you get pictures every day?
Oh my God.
I get pictures every day.
I can't believe it.
But the truth is, you have to balance it, because you do have to make the patient happy. So if they bring in photographs of what they want the teeth to look like, and they should, because you have to give them what they want. So, some people will say to me, you're the artist. I want your opinion.
That's the best. That's what I love.
It would be the best if they stay with that thought. But what happens is I tell them what I think, and then they go, but I really would like them longer, or I really want the teeth more round, not so square. So it's good that you listen to what the patient's saying, because listen, all of our goals, anyone in the beauty business, you want to make the patient happy.
And feel good about themselves.
And that's.
But I think ultimately, no matter what field of aesthetic medicine, beauty you're in, so much of it is about the doctor-patient relationship. So much of the work that is done is before the technical aspect. Because the fact of the matter is, we do it all day long. Right. Someone who hasn't been doing it for as many years, or someone who's watching or all these, may be really, really impressed by all the technicality of it. But to us, that's just going to work.
Right.
It's really the other person.
And by the way, and that's what makes you an expert in what you do, because you're doing it all day long. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be dermatology, dentistry, or plastic surgery. It could be anything. If you do what you do every day, all day long, you are going to be better than someone that does it once in a while. There's no question about it.
Are there any? I always ask my experts this at the end, towards the end of the interview, in terms of, is there anything about the practice of aesthetic dentistry, or about the technology, a tool, something that you hope comes about in the future, something that would help modern dentists?
Well, there already are things. Listen, you've got AI. So, I mean, you could see where that's going in dentistry. I don't know about dermatology, but you can see where that's going in dentistry.
Are they making really good 3D printing of veneers?
Yes, all of that is true, but what you will never get from 3D printing or from AI or any, you will never get that handmade artistry. It's like anything else.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I think the world is changing so fast that people will not be as particular about the result as I would be.
Really? I don't know. I mean, at least in my world, people are finally coming around to wanting a more natural aesthetic. I think even as little as 5 or 10 years ago, people wanted fake cheeks, fake lips, big this, big that. I think now people are more almost appreciating the natural. I mean, listen, you want the natural look as well.
But, talking about big lips, that's one of the things. So that if I could change something, I would love for a cosmetic dentist, a plastic surgeon, and a dermatologist to all work together, because so many times what's happened is someone will come to me first for their veneers. Then they might have a facelift, or they might have filler put in their lips, and you don't see their teeth the way you saw them. And then they're unhappy with their teeth. So it's sort of a discussion that really should be done amongst the professionals first, so you don't have to redo things.
Listen, this is why, I would say this unanimously of all the experts I have on the Pro Aging podcast, is that these are experts in the field that where I really think the greatest advancements comes through the coordinated efforts of these experts. And I think patients really appreciate it. When I have a patient that knows you, and your patient knows me, and Dr. Rosenberg and Maman and Risk and Neinstein and all these people, they really feel like they have a team. Listen, they're paying a lot of money. We're spending a lot of time.
And I agree with you. They actually feel good about the interaction amongst all their doctors.
And it works for them, because we talk about, I text with David all day, you and I and stuff.
No, I agree.
But that's the way it should be routinely, because the last thing I want to do is have to redo veneers because you can't see somebody's teeth after they've had work done.
Yeah.
Or the opposite. Sometimes if they have a facelift and the mouth, the smile becomes broader, bigger, you see too much teeth. So you really have to factor in all that, everything. before you do it.
The last question I have before I let you tell everybody where to find you is, listen, not everyone in the world can afford or demographically go guys like you and me and other members of the 𝒑𝐲 podcast. Are there certain points that you like to educate the public in terms of like what to look for? Like make sure you go to a place that has an in-house ceramist, or are there certain pointers you can give the audience who are seeking out?
So I think the most important thing is that you go to someone whose work you've seen. So the best referral is from a friend if you like their teeth. Yeah. Because an individual wouldn't really understand what makes a good-looking veneer or not. But you do know if you have a friend that had veneers put on and you like the way they look, that really speaks for itself.
Yeah, of course.
So you want to go to that dentist. But I also...
You shouldn't get your dentist from TikTok?
No. I wouldn't do that.
No.
But I also think, there's enough articles written today that people can educate themselves. I actually think TikTok and some other social media things are bad for this, because you hear these ridiculous stories that don't happen in a good dental practice. But I think on the internet you could educate yourself as to how the process is done, and if you know someone that's had it done and they're happy with their work, I think that's the best referral.
Yeah, that's great. All right. I think we've been babbling up. We can go for a few more hours if you want.
I could, yeah.
You good? Anyway, I want to thank you for coming. I want you to tell the audience, most importantly, how they could find you and your partners and your practice, and then we're going to focus on doing my bottoms, okay?
Yes, we're definitely doing your bottoms. I can't bear looking at you. So the name of my practice is LLK Dental. That's Lowenberg, Lattucci, and Cantor. Brian Cantor and Greg Lattucci are my partners. We're in Manhattan on Central Park South. Of course, we have a website, llkdental.com.
Your social.
And an Instagram account.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't ask me what it's called. It's LLK.
That's right. And on the next episode, we are going to be doing live beautification of Dr. Lowenberg. That's what we're doing next.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for coming, brother.
Thank you.